Hello everybody and welcome to the first annual and the first ever Lotus Awards. So I talked about this in a previous video, but just in case you're just stumbling upon this, first of all, thanks for watching, glad to have you. Second of all, look at this as like I guess a somewhat fun way of basically me pointing out and acknowledging my favorites and least favorites in fighting games from this past year. Which is very funny because I think I've mentioned several times before, usually when I'm talking about the Game Awards, I used to like award shows back in like the day, but these days it's just kind of whatever. But regardless, I wanted to make this fun as far as like acknowledging my favorites and least favorites of this year when it comes to fighting games. But without further ado, and there's not really much of an intro here, I'll basically keep you posted about certain things that I cover as we go along. Also, this is all me acknowledging my favorites. This is not fan voted or nothing like that, okay? If you have your opinion on these different categories that I'm presenting, you're more than welcome to share your comments in the comment section. That's what it's there for. Alright, let's get right into this. What's up y'all, Chris Lotus here from the future. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to take this time to formally announce my second YouTube channel, Chrysalid's Unorthodox Path. On this channel, I'll be talking about and playing pretty much anything that's not a fighting game, mostly visual novels and hero shooters. I've actually been enjoying Marvel Rivals a whole lot ever since it came out, so best believe there's going to be a lot of content for that game on there. While I was on hiatus, I really just wanted to take a break from fighting games and I just really needed something different. And while I was on that hiatus, that pretty much inspired me to start this channel. So if you're sick and tired of hearing me yap about fighting games and want to hear me talk about something different or play something different, head on over to Chrysalid's Unorthodox Path. In addition to Marvel Rivals, I will also be starting my first ever playthrough of Slay the Princess, a visual novel that I have been told that I will definitely enjoy. So if that or anything else I've mentioned interests you, once again, subscribe to Chrysalid's Unorthodox Path. Now back to the video. So the first award, I guess, this is kind of funny. If I had like an award like type of trophy or something, it would have this lantern on it somewhere. Look at this as like the Lotus Award, if you will. With that being said, the first award that I want to give out is Most Underrated Fighting Game. Now, with this particular category, like again, I'm going to keep you posted on each and every single one. This right here is considering all active fighting games. And what I mean by active is not just people still playing them, but if they're still getting content, things of that matter, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, with all the other categories, there's going to be like a top 3, top 4, whatever. With this one, I'm just going to come out and just announce the winner. Most underrated fighting game for me personally is Pocket Bravery. This game deserves so much more love and so much more attention than it's getting. I've heard so many people talk about they miss the old school 2D pixel style of fighting games from like the 90s and early 2000s. People saying that they're tired of this whole 3D design that most fighting games are pretty much going towards. And like, here it is, Pocket Bravery, and yet not that many people have been showing out for it. And on top of that, soundtrack is really good, the character designs are really good. Like, I don't even mind the whole nod back to the puzzle fighter games. Like, this game is just a mishmash of a lot of these things that a lot of these old school fighting game fans claim that they pine for. And yet, this game is still sitting here and it's so underrated. I really don't get it. People saying that they can't stand microtransactions and DLC. Remember back in the day, we had to just play the game to unlock characters. Now, granted, of course, Pocket Bravery does have paid DLC, like they have another season coming very soon. Actually, I think it's active right now that I mention it. But in the beginning, you could actually unlock characters by playing the game. They were even cool enough to tell you how to unlock the character if you hadn't already when you're on the select screen. Like, what more could you want from a game like this? Now, to be fair though, I can acknowledge one thing that is definitely holding this game back from getting the attention and the love that it deserves. And for whatever reason, Like, I'm not not being too hard on like the publishers, I want to say in this case, but part of the reason why Pocket Bravery is not getting the attention and the love that it deserves is because it's on PC. Now, unless there's some update that I missed or something, the game is still going to be coming to consoles. I know it's been a long while and some people will just throw their hands up and move on to the next thing when stuff like this happens, but yeah, I'm just saying. Even to this day, my pick for the most underrated fighting game that's still currently going right now, it's Pocket Bravery. I really do hope that this game does end up getting the love and the attention that it deserves. Moving on to my next category, most anticipated. Now I got a top 3 for this one. In third place, it's Double KO. Now, for those of you that may recall when the last beta or alpha of Double KO came out, I was not able to play it, which was also the case for a lot of other players around this time, and it was the most frustrating thing seeing that the fix that they put out there really didn't help much of anybody, because all they basically told us to do was submit tickets to the company. And I remember like, I don't like pestering people or whatever, or feeling like I'm pestering people, but I sent so many tickets to them and I never got any help whatsoever. But with that being said, even with the frustrations that I had with that, I'm still anticipating Double KO. I like the look of it. I do think the combat looks pretty good. Motion controls are not really a deal breaker for me as long as the game is fun and engaging. I know some people that's a deal breaker for them regardless of it. I mean, hey, that's you, that's your prerogative. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. It's just for me, simple controls are not really a deal breaker. It's simple controls in a game that is dry, insipid, and not very engaging. That's how it is. But I mean, given the issues that I had with trying to get into the alpha and all that, that's the reason why it places third. I mean, kind of a bitter taste still there for me, but I'm still looking forward to it. The runner-up in this category is going to be Virtua Fighter 6, or whatever they're going to call the new Virtua Fighter. Again, in case you don't know, Virtua Fighter is a fighting game that I haven't really played as much as most others. My dealings with it are pretty limited. There are some characters, of course, that I do like from it, but compared to other fighting games, I haven't played Virtua Fighter as much. Like, around where I live, of course, surprise, surprise, most people like Tekken. But with that being said, when they had announced the new Virtua Fighter at the Game Awards, I personally wasn't too excited. But then when I went to the little Sega stream that they had later where they were showing off more footage about Virtua Fighter and giving more information about it, I actually got quite interested. The look of it looks pretty good, animations look really smooth. I like the new look for Akira. I'm curious as to what's going on with Stella here, who I thought was Sarah Bryan off RIP, but apparently that's not the case. The one thing that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing as more information comes out about this new Virtua Fighter are the stages. I can't speak too much on this because I don't have the info, but I'm just curious as to what the other stages are going to look like, because I just have this really interesting feeling that these stages, the way they're structured, are going to be very key to this game, and it's going to present an element in 3D fighters that I don't think has been explored all that much. Then again, like I said, I could be totally just daydreaming out loud and but regardless, the new Virtua Fighter actually has my attention, despite the fact I really didn't pop all that hard when they announced it at the Game Awards. So, runner-up for most anticipated, Virtua Fighter 6. The winner of this award, I think you all know exactly what game it is. It's Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, and every time I give a disclaimer like that, I'm gonna laugh, because I know in the last video I was talking about a close friend of mine who catches on to that, and she always gets a giggle out of me saying I'm not gonna take long, and I end up talking for a whole half an hour. But again, I got the magic of editing on my side. But if you've been following or watching any video that I've been putting out about Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, you already know that I am so ready for this game. SNK's marketing of it has been the best that I have seen in quite a while. It's better marketing than KOF 14 and 15. Pretty much every previous fighting game from like the past like 5 to 10 years, in my opinion at least. This has been some of SNK's strongest marketing that I've seen, my opinion at least. And I just cannot wait for this game to come out. A little disappointed that we haven't gotten a beta yet, but best believe it's got to be coming soon. Once we hop into 2025, we're going to be months away from this game. We got to have at least one beta and one for the public. I understand a lot of really cool, awesome influencers and content creators have gotten a chance, even like, you know, people that are able to go to these tournaments, they got a chance to try it, but we need something for people that can't make these events for one reason or another. It's coming. It's coming. But yeah, the winner for most anticipated fighting game, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, by a long shot. All right. I'm gonna tell you right now, this award right here is pretty much the only negative one that I have. Here we are presenting the award for biggest letdown / worst promotional tactic. Now with this category, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Whether it's a game that let me down, whether it's a particular marketing, promotional tactic, or a decision that a company made in regards to a fighting game from this year, yeah, you're up for this one. Top 3 here. Coming in at 3rd place, Tekken 8 charging for extra stages. I don't think I need to talk about this one all that much. This, of course, made the news, and apparently the fandom put so much force on Bandai Namco that not only did they reverse this, but then they pretty much gave people free currency, which is why it ranks in 3rd, because it was a really silly thing to do, but credit where credit is due, they did try to remedy the issue. I'm pretty sure in most cases, when it comes to us getting extra characters that get extra stages along with them, it's usually just packaged all together. I mean, the first thing that I think about, just because this is one of my favorite characters, but Naj in KOF 15, we got her stage along with her. You know, not whatever Bandai Namco thought this was. As a matter of fact, I think you even got the stage even if you didn't buy Naj. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I did buy Naj. But that was stupid, but credit to them, they did remedy it. Coming in at 2nd place for biggest letdown / worst promotional tactic, Mortal Kombat 1. Personally, I'm very bitter about this just because I bought this day one and I'm regretting it so hard. So hard. And it's just like my interest in this game just continues to decline. Like the only thing that I look forward to when it comes to Mortal Kombat 1 nowadays is when a new DLC character is released, and of course, one of 2 people, you know who I'm talking about, compile all of the intro dialogues. And credit where credit is due, I don't care about Mortal Kombat 1 far as playing it, but I still think the intro dialogues are quite hilarious and really entertaining. But that's basically it. Other than that, it's just been a massive letdown for me. The story, I'm just gonna put it like this, there's just so much stuff in this game that just was either lackluster or just so annoying and problematic that, much like a lot of people have said, and I do agree with this sentiment, this game came out way too early. Way too early. Like, this almost seemed like a rush job. And some people might be thinking like I'm just bitter because there's no Jade. Let me tell you something about me. I don't really care as much as most other people if my main or my favorite characters are not on the playable roster. My whole thing is this: if I can't play or my favorite characters are not selectable or whatnot, then just give me somebody else. Give me somebody else that's just as cool. Give me somebody else that's just as interesting, or as interesting in the very least, and we're good. There was no Jade in Mortal Kombat X, but I like Kotal, I like Ferritor. Like, the characters are not the problem. I was happy to see Ashra, Lee May, and Havoc return, and even Natara, one of my all-time favorites. It's just, I would have rather they had been in a more engaging, less frustrating game. Like, this is my whole thing. Like, I understand, of course, the characters are key to fighting games, but for me, you could put my all-time favorite fighting game character in a garbage fighting game. I don't care if my all-time favorite character is playable in it. The game's garbage. You gotta do more than just include the characters. The gameplay has to be engaging. And for me, Mortal Kombat 1 is just not engaging. I give NetherRealm props as they try to experiment a lot with their mechanics and everything. Cameo system was a nice idea at first, but then, I don't know, it just wasn't doing it for me. The story, we'll be here all day. Like, I know there's been this discussion, more so I think with King of Fighters, or maybe this is just indicative of the side of fighting game community or fighting game fandom YouTube that I indulge in, because I know Giuseppe kind of sort of started the conversation about King of Fighters needs to take a break. And I've even seen people that are always doing the whataboutism, like, oh, you guys are just bullying SNK, like, yeah, King of Fighters needs to take a break, but you're not saying Mortal Kombat needs a break. They need to figure out, far as like the lore, what they want this game to be, and do better at like fine-tuning some of the mechanics, because DLC characters came out just ridiculously broken, to the point where it's like, it just seemed like they did not playtest this. But let me stop. I already know I got a bunch of people mad at me for dunking all over Mortal Kombat, which is funny because Mortal Kombat is not the winner of this award. Those of you that have been following the channel closely within the past year, I think y'all know what the biggest fighting game letdown is for me this year. That would be Blazing Strike. I'm sorry if that bothered you. I just had to. Oh my god. Like, again, if you have been following me hardcore, or at least closely, like remotely closely, this past year when it comes to fighting games, you all know how much I was anticipating this game. You all know how much I was excited for it. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. Like, I hate to do this because it kind of seems cheap, but Blazing Strike, when I did my review, which I was going to direct you to if you want to know more, I even mentioned in that review that I felt like I was repeating myself when I was initially writing it down and taking notes. So much so, I had to reformat the whole review to where I wasn't boring y'all to death by saying the same thing. Like, I guess I'll put it like this. Before you think I'm just picking on Mortal Kombat 1, same thing applies here. This game was not play tested to the extent that it should have been. There were no betas for the public, for people to point out things that perhaps the devs and whomever they had playtest the game could have caught. That is one reason why you put betas out there. Certain people can catch certain things because everybody approaches these types of games differently. They allowed some really simple infinites that anybody could find to get through. It was riddled with bugs, a lot of quality of life stuff is missing, and you know what, like, all of this might sound like me nitpicking, and it's like, oh, you know, you're just talking about stuff that happens with all fighting games. The big factor in all of this that makes it such a disappointment is the fact that this game was not a freebie. This was not Schwarzenblitz. This was not Duels of Fortune. This, at the very bare minimum, cost people $40. And you all know that I gave this game plenty of grace, but that doesn't excuse careless mistakes. That's enough for now. I do not want to go into another freaking Blazing Strike rant and make this video longer than it needs to be. Blazing Strike, it still pains me to say it, was my biggest fighting game letdown of 2024. All right, let's move on to more positive stuff here. Best New Character. Now for this category, once again, it had to have been a character that made their debut this year. And this is going to be so hilariously ironic because coming in at the number 3 spot, it's a 3-way tie. Pink Samurai, Nagi, and Mochizuki from Blazing Strike. Again, I am going to keep this short and simple and straight to the point. I still like all three of these designs, aesthetically and even gameplay wise. But with that being said, simply put, y'all deserve to be in a better game. That's all I gotta say. Even as much as this game disappointed me, I can still see some of the positives, even though of course the negatives just pollute the whole entirety of everything, more so than what's good. But yeah, these three characters I still stand by being very cool designs. I just wish they were like in a better game. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Tsurugi from Under Night in Birth 2. When they revealed the new characters that were coming to Under Night 2, I was not expecting to enjoy this guy all this much. Tsurugi is so much fun. Like, first glance, design doesn't really do anything for me, even though I did think the weapon was kinda cool. But like one other character in this game, once I saw him in action, I thought he was so cool. Like him bashing people with the freaking shield, or the bulwark for the sophisticated, which is very funny because I'm pretty sure Tsurugi, his name, that's also like a Japanese sword, I want to say. Sword and shield, pretty cool. But you got this guy like surfing on the bulwark and he's freaking throwing these punches almost like he's like an anime Bucky Barnes or something. Like a little bit of a spoiler here, but Under Night 2 came with some designs where it's like at first glance I'm like, But then when I see him in action, I'm like, sold. Bring him here. Bring him here. Tsurugi is a hella fun character. I freaking love this guy. In addition to the little spoiler that I gave you in regards to the winner of this category when I was talking about Tsurugi, the third place winner in this category also has something in common with the winner of this category, and that's the fact that it's a tie. Because the winners of my favorite new fighting game character of 2024 are Under Night in Birth's Uzuki and Tekken 8's Azucena. I've talked a little bit about both of these characters on this channel, but just to put it simply, like I said with Tsurugi, at first glance with Uzuki, I wasn't really sold, which is kind of cool because I got that first entire DLC season for free because I pre-ordered Under Night. On PlayStation at least, and I didn't get it on Steam, and I kind of regret that. But yeah, I was waiting for Ogre, who comes out on my birthday month, and I was just thinking like, well, I guess I'll be just waiting for him, because I didn't really think I was gonna like Uzuki. But once again, aesthetically, like I don't even think the character is ugly or corny or anything aesthetically. Like, again, I kind of like the whole gothy, dark fantasy overtones. It was just something with Uzuki, is just like, I'm just, But once again, all it took was a trailer and for me to see her in action, and I was sold, and she did not disappoint. This is the character that I have the most fun with in Under Night in Birth 2. Uzuki could possibly be a contender for my favorite all-time fighting game character list, which I also wanted to update this month, but I never got around to it. But hey, I could also do that next year as well. I could. Like right now, I'll have to look over my list, but Uzuki might be the coolest necromancy-based fighting game character I have seen in a while. Like her animations, from all the stuff with the skeletal bees to the one animation that she has where she turns to a puddle and the hat is there, all the stuff with the coffins. This character, that's all I can say. Bravo, like this character is awesome. I love her. And then moving right along, Azucena has been the character, and even to this point right now, the only character I've played in Tekken 8. Like, again, I'm interested in Zafina, and that's about it. That's why I'm pining for the likes of Armor King or Julia to make a comeback. And that's not to say I think all the other characters currently on the roster of Tekken 8 are corny. Like, all of them are just cool, but I can't see myself playing them. The only one I have heat with, once again, you probably know who it is by now, it's Heihachi. Argue with your mom, don't argue with me. Anyways, when they revealed Azucena at EVO last year, I want to say, it was perfect timing, because for me, I liked what I was seeing from Tekken 8, but again, seeing that I figured for some weird reason Julia was not going to be main roster this time, or even like Mama Chang, Michelle as I I call Michelle Chang Mama Chang. But seeing that I figured that those characters were not going to be main roster, I was banking on hopefully there's a new character that will catch my attention, and she was the first one that had been revealed, and I was sold, especially like with the dodges. I mean, granted, I am not a big coffee drinker, ironically speaking, but I know that, I just kind of look at the whole coffee thing as kind of like a little goofy thing or whatever. I know some people got really annoyed with it, but, she is just so much fun to play. I had a good time trying to like learn her setups and learn how the dodges work. I know right now she's not the most meta character after getting some nerfs, but that's how I know I really like a character. Even when you nerf them and I still happen to enjoy them, then you're doing something right. Azucena is awesome. Like, I enjoy this character so much I was able to make this video right here, which it was fun putting that together. It was fun doing something a little bit different because I've never really done musical mashups like that before. I want to do more. But yeah, big ups to Bandai Namco on that, and congratulations again for the Best Fighting Game Award at the Game Awards. And now you got a Lotus Award to your name, if that means anything to you all. Ain't nobody at Bandai Namco watching this, but it is what it is. Moving right along, for all of my fighting game music junkies out there, I got a Best OST Award here. Now, this is only going to be, of course, for games that came out this year, only for new games. And once again, irony strikes yet again, because coming in at the number 3 spot, Blazing Strike. I know this might seem a bit weird after that rant, but those of you that did watch my review may recall if there is anything that I thought that was flawless and just great about that game, it was the work that Hyperlamb did with the music. And I still stand by that. That is another reason why I'm glad I ended up getting like the limited edition, because it's ironic how it's like everything else in there was cool. It's just the game, could have used a lot more time in the oven, but it just is what it is. But yeah, that soundtrack is still awesome. Once I had heard that Hyperlamb was handling the music and the sound design, I looked at Hyperlamb stuff on YouTube Music and even on Bandcamp, and I love all of what I heard. And I was expecting just as good, if not better, for Blazing Strike, and they delivered. They really did. Like, I understand that the game has a bad rep right now, but if anything, go check out that soundtrack. It's actually really good, in my opinion at least. Coming in the second place spot for Best Fighting Game OST from this year is a game that kind of surprised me when it came out, and I kind of sort of wish that, at least for the sake of the format of this particular awards show or whatever awards video, whatever you want to call it, I wish it would have got a little bit more time to cook upon release, because this was like another anticipated title of mine. But even though I haven't had that much time with the game currently, I have had enough time with this element of it, the music obviously, to say that it's definitely one of the best OSTs to come from this year. And that is, of course, for the recently released Corrupt. After Corrupt's demo had went down, I of course did my first impressions, kind of sort of a review, I guess, of the demo. And if there was one thing that I definitely loved about that game, it has a banger OST. Like, even the few little songs that you'll hear in the demo, and there's many more bops once you get the full game. Like, they killed this. And for me, it's actually one of the more unique fighting game soundtracks I've heard in a minute, which, not that surprising seeing that Corrupt is an indie fighting game. And for those of you that follow a lot of indie fighting games, you'll know that all these different devs, they get super creative with so many things. Whether it be visual designs of stages, characters, gameplay elements, the overall concept and themes of these games, and of course, the music. When I first saw Corrupt, I was expecting something more in the veins of like the more cinematic, futuristic ambient music, which I actually love. I love that stuff. It's especially good for concentration, or if I'm doing some writing or some editing. I love having that stuff play in the background. I love that type of music. And while I would have been cool with that, they had to come with high energy, bass hitting, and danceable bangers. And I love this soundtrack. Of course, I am hoping for the best when it comes to Corrupt going forward. And now, the Lotus Award for Best Fighting Game OST of the Year, it goes to Tekken 8. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard people praising the soundtrack, especially trying to put Tekken 8 soundtrack up against Street Fighter 6's, which, by the way, I actually like Street Fighter 6's soundtrack. Like, contrary to popular opinion, I actually find it not that offensive. There are a couple songs that I've heard on the soundtrack where I'm kind of like, man, you could have done without this. This doesn't hit for me. But I personally wouldn't call it terrible. But Tekken 8, I mean, Tekken just in general never disappoints with its soundtracks. It never does. I could be here all day gushing over the music, but I'm just gonna focus on one particular song that caught me by surprise. So for me personally, ever since Tekken started doing the whole customization mode, all of the customization themes have been great. The Tekken Tag 2 theme, Your Sunset, is like this really cool and atmospheric mishmash of like vaporwave and what I would expect mall funk music to sound like. It's almost like future funk that would be playing in a mall, but it's vaporwavy and it's very airy and chilled out. Like like that whole song is just a vibe. Then with the Tekken 7 customization theme, Midnight Closet I think it was called, has this, it's pretty much just very laid back funk, like just it's pretty chill, a little bit hypnotic, so obviously I love it. But then Tekken 8 they call it Be Stylish, and yo, lo-fi chill hop, like I was done at that point. Like that right there, that type of music, that's like my soul right there. I love that when I'm cleaning up, working on content, writing, chilling, like Harada, y'all are a mess, man. What I love about these themes is that back in the day when I used to draw a lot, these would be tracks that I would love to have playing in the background, which is why I think I love them so much as customization themes, because it's not a full-on one-to-one, but of course, as you're crafting the character, you're kind of sort of like engaging in some art. At least that's how I look at it. And that's why I love all these songs so much. Phew, let me move on. I spent way too much time on that. Big ups to Tekken 8, best OST this year. All right, we got 2 more left, and far as I'm concerned, these 2 are the biggies right here. Next one is best new fighting game. Once again, from this year, 2024. The game that placed in the number 3 spot might surprise you a little bit. Rivals of Aether 2. I have played about maybe 3 or 4 hours of this thanks to a friend of mine getting it, and whenever I get the chance, I am going to pick this up. When you can get a platform fighter over with me, then in my opinion, you've got a really good game going. I had heard many a good thing about Rivals of Aether. I never really got too much of a chance to play or really indulge in the game aside from like research matter as far as like the first game is concerned. That's why I was so eager to try the second game, and not to mention that announcement that came out like when they first revealed it. It actually got my attention, and it definitely delivered. Like, I can't say too much about it at this point, but I am looking forward to really getting into Rivals of Aether at this point. I like how the look is upgraded. It's a very interesting platform fighter. I see why it has its dedicated fan base. Like, once I really delved into the game, it seemed less and less like just a Smash clone, and it has its own identity. So, Rivals of Aether 2, I think, is tremendously good. Like, even with the fairly limited amount of time compared to how much time I've gotten with some of these other games, I loved playing Rivals of Aether, and I cannot wait to play that game some more. Coming in at second place, in the number 2 spot, Tekken 8. I mean, what else can I really say about Tekken 8 at this point that I haven't already said? Like, you have to be quite the engaging game if I am just playing a single character in it and I'm still enjoying it. Like, there are certain other games where I've played like 1 or 2 characters because they're the only ones that I really am interested in or enjoy, And after a bit of time, I kinda just get bored with it. That was basically what Multiverses was. I love playing Velma, and Tom and Jerry was fun too, but it was the nature of Multiverses where I might love the characters, but I really just wasn't that invested in it long term. Tekken 8 just has something special even with some of the more frustrating things, but it's just the fact that I could still enjoy the game and I just play at at the moment now one character and I'm not tired of it yet. You know, of course I'm waiting for my favorites as I've mentioned before, but the fact that I'm still willing to stick with it, like I said, Tekken 8 has something special. Definitely looking forward to where Tekken 8 goes from here, and I'm hoping that there is more that catches my attention when it comes to Season 2, because Season 1 wasn't doing it for me. And the number one pick that I have for my favorite new fighting game of 2024, Under Night and Birth 2. If this doesn't spoil, of course, the finale, which I'm pretty sure it does, but Under Night 2 is the fighting game that I enjoyed the most this year. Like, one other thing that I want to give them props for is I like how they gave an incentive, like the first season of DLC, to encourage people to pre-order. Like, I know some people don't like the idea of just the fact it's a season of 3 characters, but that's a good incentive. And so far, when it comes to their DLC, Under Night 2 has been delivering for me. They have. I've already talked about how much I've enjoyed Uzuki. I've talked about how I enjoy the likes of Tsurugi. My old mains like Carmine and even Hyde are still fun, just as fun as they were before, if not better. Like, again, this game to me is still one of the most underappreciated and underrated ones from the past couple of years. I really hope that Under Night, again, gets the love that it deserves. But I mean, even if it doesn't, of course, like any other fighting game franchise that has a smaller, like relatively smaller but dedicated following, it's gonna do fine for itself. I could only imagine what'll happen with this game if it comes to even a season 2 at this point. Because Under Night has some cool characters. I know that whole thing of like, oh, nobody cares about fighting game story, whatever, you know, I don't believe in that crap. But I mean, hey, if y'all dug more into fighting game stories, you could possibly see and get a hint at some future characters. And I mean, best believe the stuff that you can gauge from them, far as like their powers, even though they're not playable, you would be surprised what you could, you'd be surprised what could possibly be in a game's future or whatnot. But yeah, my favorite new fighting game from this year, I give it to Under Night 2. And finally, we have Fighting Game of the Year. Now, unlike most of the other previous categories, where it had to have been a game that was released or DLC that was released this year, Fighting Game of the Year includes those games plus any other fighting games that are still active as of right now. Kind of repeated myself there, but once again, it's not just people playing it, but also games that are getting new content, getting updates, things of that matter. Again, I kind of already spoiled the winner of this with the last one, but the interesting thing about this is that the games that place second and third might be a little bit more interesting to you. More so probably the second one. Coming in at the number 3 spot is Street Fighter 6. Ever since its release, even though some things need to be tweaked and, you know, the balance has kind of gone a little bit wild and everything, I have been enjoying Street Fighter 6 ever since release. The biggest thing with this game that got me over the past year, and some people only had selective hearing about certain things, of course, was Season 2. Yes, I had my issues with Season 2, but at the same time, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I love how they implemented Terry. I love that his moveset is full of a mishmash of various moves that he's had over his history. If you haven't seen it already, Rome himself did a really good video about that. Please check that out. Like, he broke it down so well. We got a teaser for Mai not that long ago, and I cannot wait to see what they do with her as well. And of course, one of my all-time favorite fighting game characters, Elena, is coming back. I like the new look that she has, and I cannot wait to see how she even plays in this game. Street Fighter 6, for me, still going pretty strong. I still love it, and that's much more that I could say about the previous 2 Street Fighters. Again, Street Fighter 6 is the first Street Fighter game I can say that I've loved since Alpha 3. So, big ups to the fact that Street Fighter 6 is still in my good graces. Coming in at second place for my personal favorite fighting game of the year. Y'all ready for this one? Guilty Gear Strive. And no, that's not a joke. I swear there's no swerve, no nothing here. It's Guilty Gear Strive. I initially was going to give Guilty Gear Strive some type of special award like in the beginning for getting back in my good graces, but then I'm like, what am I doing? Put it in Fighting Game of the Year. This game has gotten back in my good graces. For the first time in quite some time, I had a fighting game that I had fallen out of favor with, and I'm like, these are basically my list of demands as to what will make me pick it up again. And for the most part, Arxis answered my prayers and my wishes. Because in the beginning, I loved Strive, but then the game just kind of felt redundant to me because it just felt hollow after a while. After playing about 500 matches, again, there was that feeling that I had with Multiverses where I'm just not feeling it. No matter how much I enjoy Giovanna, regardless of how much I enjoy Biken, Jacko, Eno, I just wasn't feeling the game. Overall, what I wanted was I needed some type of tweak to the gameplay to where it felt like you could do more stuff. And Arxis did that twofold for me. For one, I liked the changes that they gave to where you could do a little bit more off of landing punches and kicks on counter hit. I like that change. But the biggest thing that I think that sold it for me, and even I had this idea in mind, it's like, what if they gave some characters some new moves? That definitely helped. I love the new command dash, which is kind of like a Rekka that they gave Giovanna. That actually made her, in my opinion at least, a lot more interesting as a character. Because as much as I like the character aesthetically and everything, and even in terms of personality, and even though I did like her fighting style and gameplay, I could actually agree with people that felt like the character was kind of boring. I feel like this addition to her moveset literally made her more of a fun character in my opinion. All it took was literally just one move. I had pitched this idea about having Rei do more stuff, but all it took was just a freaking command dash Rekka move, and just the combos that you can land, the shenanigans that you can pull off. I love how each and every single one of her special moves has some sort of strength and priority if you do it from the command dash. Like, it is just crazy that that was all it took. I even like the addition of some of the newer mechanics like Wild Assault. For some silly reason, I keep wanting to say Wild Arms, but Wild Arms is a game series, which is funny because I also think there's a game out there called Wild Assault, but that's beside the point. That and the Deflect Shield I also really like as well. All in all, props to Arxis. Like, I cannot believe that Guilty Gear freaking Strive of all games is back in my good graces. Like, if Multiverses somehow gets back in my good graces, that is going to be an after Christmas miracle. I don't know. And of course, like I said, I spoiled it with the previous award. My fighting game of the year overall, it's Under Night 2. Again, what else is there for me to say that I haven't said already in this video? Again, I feel like this is still one of the most underrated fighting game series that's out there. That's not to say it's perfect, nothing is. But again, it is the fighting game that I have had the most fun with in the year 2024. And there you have it. That was pretty fun, actually. Once again, you're more than welcome to post below your 2024 fighting game favorites, least favorite things. What fighting games or fighting game related things are you looking forward to the most in 2025? And until next time, next year, I am the Chris Lotus signing off. You all take care of yourselves, be safe out there, be cool to each other. Those you out there in the cold, stay warm, stay hydrated. And for those of you who are going to be celebrating the new year, whether it be traveling with family, with friends, enjoy yourselves. Please stay safe. See ya.